Okay, so as usual, it's Robinson on the Rove, but this time instead of some grubby little office, I'm in one of the most amazing buildings I've ever been to. This is the atrium of Monsoon. Yes, up there is a genuine old-fashioned merry-go-round. I'm just scrolling round and round and round. This is an amazing building, and I'm actually here with, I think, an incredibly cool person who at this point is about to go bright red. But this is Monsoon, and Helen is Head of Talent Recruitment Global, doing the most incredible things. We'll do an introduction with Helen like we usually do in a moment. But I've got to say, this is one of the most fabulous buildings I can ever see. So I'm going to ask Helen a couple of questions here, and then we're going to wander over to a nice little seated area. Tell me a bit about yourself, first of all.
Hello, I'm Helene Williamson. I'm the Head of Resourcing here at Monsoon Accessorize. I've been here for about a year, and my brief here is very much focused on attraction and sourcing. And so I think today the plan is to tell you a bit more about that.
Brilliant. Now, I'm just going to screen that again. So Monsoon. I always happen to think, and this is maybe the feminine side of a male, I think the Monsoon Accessorize product range is fantastic. And I have to say, I was waxing lyrical last time I met up with Helen. I think she's thinking, hold on, a man that engages with women's, whatever you call it, strange. Now, first question while we're standing up, because behind is, I think, the most incredible collage. What is the Monsoon employee brand?
For me, the Monsoon employee brand is something that's incredibly difficult to disconnect from our corporate brand. I always have a bit of a kind of bee in my bonnet when people talk about sort of creating their employer brand, because I think if you have employees, then the news flashes that you already have one. Employer brand to me is not just about kind of how you communicate, but also how you behave, and that's how you behave with your suppliers, with your employees, and of course with your candidates. And so for me, what we stand for as an employer is about beautiful product that's ethically sourced, and for us also very much about values that kind of put people at the heart of what we do.
I like the ethical bit, and behind me, and I'm just going to do a close-up over into mine. These are all, this is a beautiful mural of people, Indian people particularly. I presume a lot of your products are sourced in India.
Right.
And it really does tell you that this is an organisation that looks at its workforce and its suppliers, unlike an organisation today that will call out having workers working at 7p an hour, 14 hours a day, pound stretcher by the way, and if they sue me, tough. This is an organisation that really do look at their people at a very holistic level, and I think that's super. So, Helen and I are now going to take a little wander over, going to sit down. I'm trying to think what that flag is over there, but anyway, it's very cool as well. So we've heard about the employee brand, or actually, as Helen says, maybe there isn't such a thing as an employee brand. There is a brand, and it's how you then communicate it through your employment messaging. And actually for me that was an interesting kind of slap on the wrist, because I've often believed there is such a thing. I think more and more there is an employee brand, but it is the culture, the company, the DNA. What is different is the employee brand proposition as we position it to recruitment. So a couple of questions, and my memory is going, so I'm getting really old here. So, second question. Your organisation handles in recruitment in-house, but actually in a way that is almost unique. So first question, why do you handle recruitment in-house?
For us, in-house recruitment is really a kind of an essential part of the way we operate. I guess one of the kind of key things about kind of how the team is set up is they're set up almost like an in-house agency. So we do probably 98% of our recruitment directly. What that means in terms of the advantage that it gives us is that our candidates have a really great candidate experience, so that they are speaking to a Monsoon employee about what's great about working for Monsoon and why they should join us from the start of the process. The other kind of massive advantage that I think we have is that in terms of our sourcing, what we've essentially created is a team of specialists, so a team of experts on not just what makes a great buyer, but actually what makes a great buyer at Monsoon. And so for us, that's one of the kind of really critical parts of the model. The other kind of kind of strand, I guess, is the sort of DIY aspect of things. So for us, we operate on a very small budget. So we're an incredibly cost-effective team. So not only does it kind of come with branding advantages and sort of personal service advantages, but it's also a much lower cost way of going about things. And we're big believers in kind of not paying someone to do things that we could be doing ourselves more effectively and more personally. And that's very much something that's at the heart of our values as well.
So I can actually say to people, this culture goes right down to the fact this organisation doesn't have a recruitment advertising agency. Now guys, that doesn't mean that every agency then hits the phone trying to pitch.
Please don't.
But it is actually quite unusual because most retailers I meet, most corporates I meet have, as I refer to it, as an RAA. But you do all your work in-house, don't you? You've got your design studios.
Right.
That again is a potentially huge cost saving, culturally very different. Is there a reason for that other than cost, do you think?
We're very privileged, I think, to work in a company that is full of talented, creative people. And so I think we have a real advantage in kind of doing things ourselves in that we have, a graphics team on site who really understand the language, both visual and kind of copy, of our brand. And we also have a kind of huge advantage from doing it in-house in that we are able to really make sure that everything that we do aligns closely with our corporate brand. So it kind of comes back to trying to be as streamlined as possible in kind of how and what we communicate and as consistent as possible. And then I guess the other advantage is that it gives us the ability to be quite agile in the way that we work, so we can respond a lot more quickly and of course more cost effectively if we do things in-house than if we had to brief an agency, wait for the work to come back in, give them back our comments on the work, and essentially work in that sort of more iterative way.
I think most RAs at this point will be diving for cover and complaining that I should edit all of this stuff out. Now, earlier on we had a discussion. I'm not going to actually mention any specific figures because obviously that is confidential. But I know you have a pretty accurate understanding. What percentage do you think you are saving a year by doing all of this in-house? Because it terrified me.
My team works to set kind of targets and ratios, and one of the things that we track them on is how much we would have had to pay a recruitment agency had we made their placement and paid a placement fee. And so what I can share with you is that we have saved about £1 million in 10 months of tracking that this year. So it's a huge saving, and that's probably about 70 to 80% of the overall spend that we've saved. So it's of course a very cost-effective way of recruiting, but it has a lot of other kind of hidden benefits as well in terms of managing the brand and the message.